Hello and welcome to yet another video. Today I will discuss a new set of preludes that I recently picked up from Customizing Mars. These are 18 fan-made preludes that do not only bring a bit more variety to the game, but also connect the different expansions by introducing Venus and colony-based preludes. Let's get started. First, a bit of general pretext. This new set of preludes can be bought online and was made by the team behind Customizing Mars. They are in my opinion of very high quality, feel and look great, and I love playing with them. I think I paid $8.99 for these 18 preludes, and of course because of licensing reasons, they cannot look exactly the same as the official TM cards, so all graphics for text, resource icons and so on are a bit different than in the main game. But what I really like about these preludes is that some of them introduce new mechanics and others connect with the Venus Next or Colonies expansion. So I really recommend you guys checking these preludes out. I put a link down in the description. Let's get to rating them. By the way, you can find my rating scheme in the description. The first prelude I'll talk about in today's video is Boreal Outpost. It allows you to place a greenery and 2 markers on non-reserved areas adjacent to the greenery and each other. This prelude grants a building and a plant tag. I obviously have to compare this to Experimental Forest, the original greenery placing prelude. That one is already average or below, and Boreal Outpost is probably even a bit worse. Sure, the building tag is nice to secure builder, but I'd much rather draw 2 cards than secure 2 spots next to the greenery. It is not the end of the world if someone places a city or even some random tile next to it, so the value of securing 2 spots next to it is negligible. I'd give this prelude a C probably. It's average most of the time, but sometimes can be pretty good, for example, when combining with other tile placements for an additional plant conversion or when going for gardener. The first example of a Venus Next prelude is Buoyancy Experts. It allows you to play a floater card from hand, ignoring any requirements, and then adding 3 floaters to it. Additionally, you get 15 MC and also this card holds a Venus tag. Since you don't draw a floater card with this prelude, it is heavily reliant on you having a good one on your starting hand already, comparable to Ecology Experts. Of course, Celestic or MSI do not help here, as you draw those cards after you already played this prelude. Also, don't feel hesitant to use this card in combination with a floater card that doesn't have any requirement, because 15 MC and 3 floaters are most certainly nothing to sneeze at. Compare that to Donation, which just offers 6 more MC and doesn't even have a tag on it. Also, 3 floaters really help with getting towards Hoverlord, and this prelude combos quite well with Early Scrapper, a prelude which I will talk about later that lets you draw a Venus tag. All in all, I like this prelude much more than the last one, but it's also considerably less reliable, so I'd still give it a C, but more like a C+, while Boreal Outpost was more like a C-. Now we get to the really interesting stuff with Corporate Merger. This prelude either requires you to pay 42 MC to play another corp card from your hand, or it allows you to keep all 10 cards for free. First of all, you cannot choose the first effect if your corp already starts with less than 42 MC, and also you need to pay for the cards you want to keep first, so a lot of corps cannot choose this effect at all, or can't keep any cards out of the starting 10 if they want to get that second corp. You can combo this prelude with Donation or Loan to make it more accessible, but in general, the first effect is probably best if your starting hand isn't that great. Cool, because the secondary effect is best when your starting hand is amazing and you want to keep all cards. If more than 7 cards in your starting hand are great, then this effect is better than Donation, and of course it is really helpful in a case where you want to go for Planner. All in all, I'd give this prelude a B. There are only a few situations where it is useless, namely when you only have poor corps to choose from and your starting hand sucks as well, but then probably even the best preludes couldn't save you. I already talked about the next prelude a bit, Early Scrapper. I really like the Venus Next expansion and MSI is one of my favorite corps, so I'm kinda biased on this. With it, you raise the Venus track twice, draw 1 Venus card, and it also has a Venus and a Science tag on the card itself. The Science tag feels kinda slapped onto it, but there are actually a few Venus cards that require Science tags. Increasing the Venus track can be great if you have some cards on your starting hand that require it. I'm mainly talking about Venusian animals. That one is just insane, but normally hard to get to. And I also like specifically drawing a Venus card as it helps you to get those combos going. So this prelude is really catered toward a Venus-centered game and is probably the best prelude for MSI. But there are so many situations where you do not go for Venus at all, and then it's just 2 TR and a card. But wait, what about UNMI Contractor? Everybody likes that prelude, and it just gives one more TR with arguably worse tags. Yeah, and that's why I will put Early Scrapper in B tier. Next up we have Eclectic Commune, a really weird one. It allows you to place a city tile and decrease every other player's MC by 1. Also, you get a Jovian, city and animal tag. The 2 city preludes that are already in the game are below average, and except when I'm playing on the expansion boards or in some really niche scenarios, I really don't like picking them up. Same is true for Eclectic Commune. It gives worse production than self-sufficient settlement and only has a few upsides over it. First of all, if someone is playing Robinson Industries, this can ruin their first gen, but you don't notice when picking it up. And secondly, the tags can be really nice, either because you want to get Diversifier, you're playing Eridor, or because you have Interplanetary Trade on hand. These tags are also 3 of the rarest to get in the early game. But all in all, this card is still C tier for me, however bordering on F tier even. And for our first colony-based prelude, we have Frequent Flyer Program. This prelude gives you 2 power prod, an additional trade fleet, and has a power tag on the card itself. This prelude is best compared to Power Generation. Power Generation gives you 3 power prod and therefore allows you to trade starting in Gen 2. Frequent Flyer Program doesn't do that, unless you can make flying cheaper or when you have more power prod on hand to follow it up. If not, then you're trading in late game potential, which you're getting with that additional trade fleet, or early game payoff, which you'll get when you're able to trade immediately. Also, don't forget that you can also just SP 1 power to get to 3. So I quite like this card. Getting a second trade fleet is quite rare, and although it's not always useful, most of the time it is, even if it just means denying your opponent's trades. Power Generation is S tier if you play with colonies in my opinion, and B tier if not, for an average of A. But if you play with Frequent Flyer Program, then you're necessarily playing with colonies, so that makes this prelude S tier for me. Now let's get to the next weird one, Jovian Casino. This prelude just gives you a Jovian tag and the ability to draw 2 more preludes, of which you can play 1. It kinda feels like Fricks Games, the official publisher of Terraforming Mars, saw this prelude and thought, let's make a seasonal promo card out of this. But let's be real, this prelude, and now I'm talking about Jovian Casino again, is pretty good if your other preludes suck, and it's exceptionally great if you can use the Jovian tag, either for Saturn Systems ability, Jovian Malt, Rim Settler or Diversifier. I really like it as it's basically any other prelude but with an additional Jovian tag on it. Of course, you can get really unlucky with it, so as per definition, this prelude needs to be above average and therefore it lands in A tier for me. Next up, we have this expansion's How I Met Your Mother reference, Legendary Operator. It grants you 5 titanium, the ability to draw 2 space events and a space tag. Obviously, it is best compared to Acquired Space Agency. You get 1 less titanium, but a space tag. Drawing space events rather than simple space tags can be good if you have media group or optimal arrow breaking on hand, or when you're simply going for a fast game. But there are also situations where you'd rather draw non-event space tags, for example when you're going for Jovians. So I guess all these things even out, and this prelude sits right next to ASA in A tier. Let's talk about a weird one again, Life Scientist. This prelude allows you to either increase your plant prod by 1 or your heat prod by 2. Also, you draw 2 animal or microbe tags, and the card itself also holds a microbe and an animal tag. A single plant prod in the early game is really bad if you cannot combine it with any other plant income, as you're likely the only target for asteroids and therefore the chance that you get to 8 plants is quite slim. 2 heat prod is also a bit underwhelming, but in theory, both of these prods can help you with getting the cards online that you draw with this prelude, as almost all animal or microbe tags either require a high oxygen or temperature level. This reveals another problem with this prelude. Many microbe cards straight up suck, and most animal tags go down so late that drawing them with a prelude is not that beneficial. Of course, I will not complain about getting a 1-point animal, even if it's in the first gen. On the upside, this prelude really helps with getting to Ecologist or playing advanced ecosystems. But overall, I'd rank this in C tier, just saved from F tier by the card draw and the nice tags. We just spoke about a prelude that yields a singular plant prod, and the next one does that as well. Living Aquifer. It allows you to place an ocean, grants one plant prod, and also holds a plant tag. When compared to the other ocean placement preludes, I think this, together with Polar Industries, ranks lowest. It can help in certain scenarios, for example with Decoline, as you can pick up plants with the ocean and also get plant prod, or with lakefront resorts when going for a ground game. And of course, it can allow you to pick up the best ocean placement bonus on the map, before anyone else has the chance to do so. But still, this prelude is low C tier for me. After two subpar preludes, let's talk about a banger again. Materials Research lets you draw 2 cards, grants you 2 steel prod, and has a building tag on the card itself. This immediately makes it one of the best preludes if you want to go for builder. 1 tag head start, steel to help you get those tags down, and 2 more cards for more chances to draw building tags. But even if builder is not in the game, this prelude is a really great mix between economy and cards. The only other prelude that does both and is better in my opinion is Research Network, and that one sits in S tier. And this is also where I will place Materials Research. Next up is Nuclear Colony, which increases your power prod by 1 and also allows you to place a colony. In my opinion, this is worse than Frequent Flyer program, as that one meant you had to only use SP power once to get to 3. With Nuclear Colony, SPing is not really an option, and you rely on having additional power prod cards to be able to trade starting in Gen 2. Of course, a colony helps immediately in contrast to the additional fleet of Frequent Flyer program, which is more of a long-term asset. So all in all, I'd rank this prelude in A tier. Now let's talk about another Venus prelude, Planetary Alignment. This one lets you increase oxygen, temperature, and the Venus track by 1, and grants an Earth and the Venus tag. A bump of 3 to your eco, and don't forget you're stealing these points on the tracks. The tags can also be very helpful to set up great combos. It's quite comparable to UNMI Contractor, which is a great prelude. Trade in a card for a Venus tag and the fact that your opponents will never get these points on the terraforming tracks. All in all, still A tier for me. Let's talk about one of my favorite preludes of this expansion, Prolific Labs. This one increases your TR by 1, lets you draw 2 science tags and holds one of those itself. Why do I like this card so much? Some of the best cards in the game are science payoffs, and getting them down as early as possible is of top priority. But it can be hard sometimes. No one likes passing a bunch of science tags, so you don't see many in the draft. This prelude helps enormously if you have a science payoff on hand, and even if not, maybe you draw one with it. So for me, this prelude is A tier. Jesus, there are only a few sadder preludes than Satellite Gardens. It has no tag and just grants you a titanium prod and a plant prod. Often enough, I've said that a singular plant prod is really inconvenient if unsupported. And a titanium prod is nice, but really doesn't combo at all with it. Sure, dome farming in theory gives a weaker bump to your economy, but MC prod actually helps with the ground game, and also that card has 2 really useful tags on it. So I'd ranked it lower than that, and this can only mean Satellite Gardens will land in F tier. One of the most straightforward but also solid preludes in this expansion is Venture Backing. It grants 2 MC prod and 12 MC straight away. Until Gen 6 it is more efficient than Allied Banking or Business Empire, but it also doesn't hold a tag. So in my opinion, it is A tier. But let me get this straight, you never go wrong with this prelude. It's not game breaking or flashy, but it is always solid and helps with every game plan. Let's get to vertical farming. This is again really similar to Satellite Gardens and dome farming. In 99% of cases, it is a worse in every way version of the latter, as it holds the same tags and gives the same amount of prod, with steel being less flexible than MC. The only cases where this is not true are when you have either Rego Plastics or advanced alloys on hand, or you somehow care about Miner in Gen 1. In my opinion, this prelude is still better than Satellite Gardens though. It holds 2 useful tags and its steel prod combos much nicer with a potential ground game. But still, this card is low C tier for me. The last prelude for today is Wave 0 Colonization. This one lets you place a colony and then allows you to trade once for free. It also holds an Earth tag. Sure, a colony is really nice, but trading once for free in the first gen yields really low payoff. In most cases you want to trade with the planet you just built a colony on, But even if you do that with Luna, one of the best colony tiles in the game, you just get a meager 4 MC. What this prelude definitely does offer is flexibility. You can shape its payoff however you like, of course based on the colonies that are in the game. I will rank it in C tier, but probably a high C tier. Thanks for watching today's video on the fan-made preludes introduced with the expansion made by Customizing Mars. As you might know, I made a tier list about the base game preludes over a year ago. This was one of my first videos, and both the production value and my insights were of a bit lower quality than my videos today, so I'll definitely revisit the base game preludes at some point. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And also, check out my Twitch channel, where I mostly stream Terraforming Mars gameplay. See you there.